Hey, it's Birdman for Birdman on the Mountain, and I'm hanging out at the new public safety building here in Show Low. It's a joint partnership with Navajo County Sheriff's Department and the Show Low Police Department. We saw some of the stuff from ribbon cuttings for it, but this is the community room, and with me this morning I have, based around community, the two of the school safety officers. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I am Officer Ellsworth with the Show Low Police Department, and I am the school resource officer at the high school.
At the high school?
Yes, sir.
Officer Eberline, and I'm also the school resource officer at the junior high.
At the junior high. So you guys deal day in, day out with parents and teachers and students as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Cool. And we're going to talk today about some of the public safety issues based around going back to school and things like that. So why don't we start in at the junior high? Some of the new things going on there. The schedules have changed. Is that correct from both of you?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the start time is now, the welcome bell's at 7:40 and the late bell's at 7:45. And that's really the main change. Obviously, the let-out time is a little bit later as well.
Okay.
It's at 2:55.
2:55.
Sorry.
Oh,
Trying
no.
to memorize it still.
Well, everything's sort of changed a little bit from last year. We know scheduling has changed some things. And then anything new as far as junior high is concerned from a technology aspect or anything?
No, not that I'm aware of. I know that they've done a few changes within the year as well, implementing the WIN program, and I'm trying to remember what the acronym is, but it's basically a scheduled recess, if you will, every
okay.
Tuesday and Thursday, a structured recess, that's what they call it.
Okay. That's good. And recess is actually kind of important to rest the mind and keep kids from being, well, it's good for adults too, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
Good for the teachers as well, so that they can try to
Regroup.
regroup and prepare for the next class or whatever they need to do.
Nice. Awesome. And Officer Ellsworth, what do we have as far as high school? Is there any big differences or anything?
So there is some schedule change this year. They're starting a little bit later, so the bell's ring at about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
The second bell's about 8:05, and the school buses are still dropping off the kids around 7:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it is still very busy school zone between 7:15 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And you guys aren't part of then the elementary side, which is down central, that kind of thing.
We're not there all the time, but we do have responsibilities over there that we are spending some time over there.
Okay. So let's start with the first thing that most people start to be aware of or should be aware with school, which is traffic and school zones. What can you guys give me as far as advice or sort of the tips about that?
Yeah, so at our school, where the junior high and the high school is at, it's very busy between 7 o'clock in the morning till about 8 a.m. In fact, I've noticed that there are vehicles lined up all the way down Cougar Lane where parents are trying to drop kids off in the loading zones, and same after school trying to pick kids up. So there's kids all over the sidewalks and in the crosswalks, and so we do want to make sure that the parents are paying attention to the speed limits and watching for kids, because we do have kids who are oftentimes not using the crosswalk. So we want to make sure we are enforcing those speed limits in that area and being careful so our kids don't get hurt.
That's an awesome thing. Same
Also encourage your kids or the kids that you have contact with to use the crosswalks, because they're there for their safety and for the driver's safety as well.
Now, do you have a lot of kids that ride bicycles to the schools? Does that happen?
There is.
Okay. I find that just from observation that a lot of people misunderstand the rules when it comes to bicycles. First, if you're riding on the street, you have to act as if you're a vehicle. Is that correct?
Correct, it is.
But if you're on a sidewalk, when you come to the crosswalk, what are you supposed to do?
Well, typically the kids aren't supposed to be riding on the sidewalk in the first place, but they do. That's
Okay.
just the way that it works. But we do have crosswalk guards at all the crosswalks, and so when the kids are on the bicycle, they basically wait for the crosswalk guard, and they basically do just exactly like a pedestrian would do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but it's the one thing that I always caution my child with is riding on a sidewalk and then jumping down onto the street and then
Yeah.
jumping back off, because it confuses people in cars.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. So while we're in those school zones, best bet is to basically put both your hands on the steering wheel and look around and not be doing other things.
For
Most
sure.
definitely.
No texting. I mean, I wish we had signs in our school zones that said you're not allowed to text and drive in our school zones, but unfortunately right now we don't have anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, we're paying close attention to it. We do see a lot of people texting and driving in the school zones, and we're trying to deter that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm always one that's like, I would rather people just do it and not to have to make it be a law against it. But that's one of those things that should be a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, 15 miles per hour and no texting and pay attention and don't be changing your radio station and don't be yelling at the kids in the back and all those kind of things.
Right.
I know that last year the crossing guard was struck with a mirror due to someone texting while driving. So it's definitely important. Definitely takes your eyes off the road even for just a split second. It's enough time for somebody to jump out in front of them. So
yeah. Was that person okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because people don't realize that a mirror, it sounds like, it was a mirror, but that 15 miles per hour, that kind of momentum, you could kill somebody with it.
For sure.
Yeah, easily. Okay, now, so we talked about traffic and those situations. Now we start to get into the school. What are some of the things that you guys are focusing upon and making sure that the safety is being maintained?
Well, as usual, we're still enforcing no drugs, no alcohol, no tobacco on the school zone. Of course, no weapons, no pocket knives, anything like that. I know sometimes it's hard to forget. We live in a community where kids are hunting and fishing, and everyone has a pocket knife, but they aren't allowed at the school. So we need to make sure I find a lot of knives at the high school. So it's one of those things that you kind of just forget, stick it in your pocket and come to school, but unfortunately we do have to take them from them.
Right.
So.
And same thing, obviously.
Yeah, most definitely. We just want to create an atmosphere where the kids can come and learn. That's the whole ultimate goal.
So talk to me about the bigger thing that's been going on. It used to be name calling was just in person, or maybe somebody would talk on a telephone. But the advent of the internet and then the advent of smartphones has really taken the whole level to bully somebody or to cause issues or pass notes, so to speak, very easily. So how is that addressed? Is there a policy for phones at schools, and how does that go?
There is. So at the high school, the policy is if you have a cell phone during the class, it's put away, shut off. Some of the teachers have different policies where they can either be put in a backpack for the class or they can be turned in at the beginning of class and given back at the end of class. But they are to be turned off and secured during the day. So, yeah, and with all the instant access to social media and everything, we have, issues with bullying and cyberbullying and stuff. So Officer Eberline, we are targeting that with the kids. We do teach classes to the student body about cyberbullying. And
now tell me what, and obviously you haven't like investigated everybody or looked at everybody, but what do you gauge as looking at this thing, percentage of kids that have smartphones?
Oh gosh, at the high school,
80,
I think
90%.
they all have them. I don't know about the junior high level.
80, 90%.
80-90% of junior. And what age are we talking there?
6th grade to 8th grade.
6th grade to 8th grade. So everybody.
Even in the elementary school, it's a large percentage.
Wow.
That's a lot, yeah.
So it's just now, and there's the cyberbullying, but then there's also the identity theft that starts to become an issue as well. Is there anything that you guys can even do there or talk about? Or
well, I haven't noticed that yet in the school zone with the kids or anything like that. I haven't experienced that. Just specifically them targeting each other over social media. That's the big one right now.
That's a big one. And then they're doing that on all kinds of different networks. Can you let some of the parents understand? Because people understand Facebook, they understand Instagram, but there's other ones, aren't there?
Oh, there's ones I don't know about still. I'm still learning about it.
Twitter, Snapchat.
Yeah.
There's Whisper and those ones, and so it's important to understand what's going on.
And every day I talk to kids in the hallway and try to get an idea. There's things I've never even heard of before, so it's all a new experience to me as well.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Okay, what other issues do we need to talk about that's around safety for the kids and then for the community around schools?
I think that we hit on most of it. I think we want to just make sure that the kids and the parents, if they know about something that's going on, to make sure it's reported either to the school staff or to us, because usually kids aren't very comfortable coming to somebody in uniform to talk to maybe their personal issues, or if they're being targeted at school, or if there's something going on. So we're just encouraging people to make sure it gets reported one way or another to somebody.
Even if they want to remain anonymous.
Right.
You know, there's parents, we've had it already at the junior high where parents have called in and remained anonymous and not been willing to give their child's identity or their identity and said, this is what's going on, and I know it through my child, but I'm not willing to tell you who it is. So
Okay.
we just want to get rid of the issue. If the issue is drugs or alcohol or bullying or whatever it is, we want to get to the root of the problem versus, get anyone in trouble necessarily.
And they can call you directly. They can call. How do they do that? What is the actual procedure? Do they call the police department? Do they call? Is it you guys?
Typically they're going to report it at the school if there's something going on at the school.
Okay.
But you can call the police department if you feel like you have to. Most of the reporting will come through our staff and Troy and I through reporting at the school. So
Cool. Very awesome. I mean, I want people to understand and know that, you guys aren't there. You guys are there as resource officers, and that's a specific name, and it's specifically based upon the fact that you're a resource for the kids, you're a resource for the parents, you're a resource for the teachers. You're not a totalitarian police officer that's there restricting rules or doing those kind of things.
Correct.
It's basically, and they should understand. I mean, I grew up, my grandfather was an officer, my father was an officer, so police officers in my mind, or my dad, so that's how I treat them, and that's what everybody out there should understand is you're just there to help and make sure that everybody's safe and give them a better avenue than having to, feel like there's nothing or no help.
Correct.
Cool. Any other contact information or things that you want to put out there for those guys?
The only other thing I can think of is I know last year during the lockdown incident, there was a lot of phone calls back and forth and texts between parents and children, and it clogged up all the lines so that the law enforcement and fire personnel weren't able to communicate with one another through the radio because it was such a busy situation, and then also through cell phones because they were so clogged up and congested with all the traffic going on between parents and kids.
Yeah.
So if we can get the word out to them to limit that or to do that not at all, so that we can do what we need to get the situation taken care of or figure out what's going on exactly.
Yeah, so let me specifically, when people ask, well, what took so long? If they knew what it was, what took so long? What takes so long is, you're exactly right. There's only so many channels on a cell tower, and you only have one cell tower there. So when everybody ties it up, you're right, you can't get communications through, and you can only talk one at a time on a radio. So that's what slows it down. It's exactly that. So the more that people are doing that, and that's the one thing that they need to have trust within the operations that are there. And you guys handled that phenomenally. I mean, it was identified, you took care of it. It was a pretty straightforward kind of thing. Yep. And done. But yeah, so and then we it's funny because first almost 2 days of school, we heard there was a lockdown at one of the schools, and immediately there was some panic, and it's like, there's a lot of different reasons for a lockdown, isn't there?
Yeah, we'll periodically throughout the year do drills just because we want the teachers and the kids to be proficient at them. We want them to be aware that that's what's happening, especially like at the younger levels, the grade school. Just because they obviously get scared, they get upset, there's tears shed and things like that. So we want them to know what could happen or needs to happen in the situation of an emergency or in the event of an emergency.
Yeah. I grew up in Ohio. We had tornado drills all the time. But I also grew up in the Cold War era, so we had nuclear drills as well. So a nuclear bomb just went off, so it doesn't cause permanent stress. It's something that actually we need as individuals to experience those kind of faux stress, so that we know whenever something really happens, we'll be able to deal with it.
Yep.
Very cool. Definitely. Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Officer Ellsworth, Officers Eberline, thank you very much, and appreciate everything you do within the community. I appreciate your service. That's going to be it for this episode of Community Shout. No, that's not Community Shout. It's actually from City Hall, but I'm confused because I'm at the police station. So I'm Birdman reminding you, if I don't see you around town, I catch you right here on the web.